Hey everyone, my name is Carla Brown, and I am excited today to be talking with a dear friend and colleague about ways that we can support teens to transform their experience around stress and anxiety. And I am doing a live for the first time, and I want to invite my friend Beth on. And let's see, here we go. How are we doing here? Is it here? Are you here? I guess it takes a little bit of time. There
We did it!
you are! Yes! Just gonna celebrate the small wins.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I think we're just going to celebrate that we're on here live. Technology is like,
Exactly.
Technology is our friend.
Exactly. Technology is our friend. And for those of you that are joining us, just joined us, we'll watch this later. I felt very inspired and motivated to speak with Beth today about a subject that is very dear to my heart. Beth she has created a program called Life School 101 for Teens. And the reason that this is that it's so alive for me and I'm so excited about it is because when I was a teenager, I did not have the tools I needed. And I'm just going to speak for myself, but I have a lot of my friends who felt similar ways. And when I heard of some of the things that you are offering, Beth, I just got so excited. When I was a 15-year-old girl, there was a very horrific thing. I'm not going to go into details, but there was a really horrific thing that was a trauma, and it was a fatal trauma, and it was very tragic. And our school administrators did not know how to handle it in a way that it truly supported the kids to navigate the experience of overwhelm, anxiety, grief, loss, confusion, etc. And it has been with me sort of in the background, way in the background at times, and then coming up more in the foreground when other traumas happen in my own community. And when I saw Beth offering this program, I just had to talk. I had to talk to you about it, Beth, because it's almost like the child in me that didn't get met, didn't get seen, didn't get heard, didn't get what she needed, might get it right now. And so I just want to talk to you about what motivated you to create this program, what the program's about, just whatever you want to share about it.
Absolutely. And I just want to acknowledge that I imagine anyone who may listen to this, and I know, and that's part of why I created it, is because exactly what you shared is what I wish I had some of this guidance or awareness when I was growing up. And just like a super quick background is, I was a school social worker for many, many years, and I absolutely loved that role. And then in my own life, was going through quite a bit of grief and trauma myself, and started opening up to different types of healing. So I started receiving energy healing. I found yoga, but really as a sanctuary, as a place to really heal and be still and quiet, which, by the way, I didn't want to be still and quiet, right? Mm-hmm. It was, I remember when one of the first yoga, not a first yoga class, but at this time in my life, and when the yoga teacher would say, it's time to quiet your mind and keep your body still, that was my cue to be like, I'm out, because the things that were going on in my mind and in my body was very unkind. It was not a safe place to be. Mm-hmm. And that was years and years of all of these emotions and experiences, trauma, adverse, being a human being. All of these things had been stored energetically and in my body and in my mind, very busy. And so over time, I really allowed myself to be on the mat and allow things to move through, and gave myself permission to do that. And over the years, I really, what happened is I left school social work because all those things that had supported me, I really wanted to learn how to do them. So I became a Reiki master and a yoga teacher, and specifically teaching for children, and also grief yoga, which Carla did the teacher training with grief yoga. And so I feel like Life School is really a culmination of everything from my experience as a teenager to this point in time, because I'm observing as a therapist, as a yoga teacher, and as a mother to a teenager, I'm just witnessing, every one of us can agree that, especially over the past 2 years, the overwhelm and the anxiety and all of the stress that is present, we can't ignore it. And what has been a blessing is the conversation around mental health is growing.
Yes.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
My perspective is almost like rebranding mental health, because there is the mental piece, there is the mind, but there's also the body, there's our emotions, there's our intuition, and there are people, but that it's not commonly taught. And so what I noticed with my teen clients, my one-on-one clients, and I've been teaching some teen yoga classes over the years, and college age and high school, is that once I've given them that space to explore emotions, their bodies in different ways, and their mind, and it's all weaved in, it's like this light goes off, and it allows them to listen to their intuition, and it allows them to really turn the volume down, because the fact is that we can't change what's happening in our world, and we can't change it, but we can learn how to respond from a multi-layered place where we can turn down the volume on the sensations in the body, or on the overwhelm, on the anxiety. It's just, we're living in a world without even all of the pandemic and school safety. Being an adolescent itself it's so hard. It's so hard. And I feel like it doesn't have to be so hard. So there's a lot of simple tools that I can share with them. And before that, really creating a space of like, they're not broken. They don't need to be fixed. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with them. They're perfect exactly as they are.
Well, and I feel like I just want to pipe in and say that growing up, being an adolescent and a teenager I already felt something was wrong with me. Like, it almost feels like the nature of being a teenager is all the changes, all the hormones, all the new things, everything's awkward. I'm supposed to know this, or I'm not supposed to know this, and I remember when that trauma happened for me, I felt I'm a very feeling person. I felt an immense amount of grief, but I didn't know what it was. And I also didn't know that it was allowed. I was allowed to feel those things because the person who, things happened to, they weren't really like my very best friend. The things that happened with the people that were around me, they were in my classes, but they weren't my best friends. So I thought, well, you don't get to have these feelings. You don't get to have these experiences. So I almost felt like I was negated. And I didn't feel like the adults around me had the tools to give me to know how to navigate it, because they didn't know how to navigate it. And so there was a lot of blame and finger pointing and shame and punishment and judgment. And for me, being a sensitive soul, I just felt very confused, and it created, it started that process of clenching, like, just get through this, and somehow, you're going to be okay. And it started my body getting used to clenching and holding and gripping and getting through things, as opposed to being true to myself, listening to my intuition, speaking up, saying, I'm afraid. I know that this is a new world we're living in, but the reason that I feel that your tools around this subject are so vital is that kids at that age need permission to be able to feel empowered with their own wisdom and understanding of themselves, and also to be seen and heard and validated. And I feel like perhaps you could talk about some of the tools that you're going to be offering in this program, maybe when it starts, and like just how it can empower teens to feel just a little bit safer and empowered living in their bodies.
Absolutely. I just want to reflect on one thing that you said, though, is that you said, you're a person who feels a lot. So does every human being. And the fact is that every human has a mind, a body, sensations, emotions. It is the culturally, we have taught people to numb very quickly. And
Yes.
so, and to avoid, and we don't have to get into all of that right now, but I think that's why part of what I'm so excited about this program is that it doesn't mean that there has to be anything wrong. It's literally about being human. And
Yes.
so it's not, it is for anybody, and because everybody experiences life. And
Yeah.
so it's, but I appreciate what you said, because, you know, you started, I'm a sensitive person. I feel a lot. And so does everybody. We are, you know,
Yeah.
babies, you watch a baby, they express super quickly, and then it's like, shh, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not an adult's fault or blame. It's our own. I know I did this as a parent so many times. I still do as a parent so many times, but it's massive awareness of that is like, what do I need to work? Anyway, we can go into that another time, but
Yeah.
just acknowledging that this is really about being a human being and how to respond to life, because life
Mm-hmm.
is messy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So what does it look like? It's a 3-month experience. And it's interesting because when I created it, I sort of felt like, wow, that's a long time. You know, people are really busy and they really only want to commit they don't really want to commit. But this was my point of view. You know, when at school, right? It's like they take a class, and a science teacher would never come and say, all right, like I'm going to teach you chemistry today. And then like, I'll be back in June to see how it went.
Yeah.
Right. So it's fascinating to me. So when I did come up with 3 months, it feels like it is a consistent time to really instill some of these lessons and tools for them to practice. So
Mm-hmm.
over the 3 months, we meet 10 times. And for the first 5 weeks, the kids are going to get a video each week. And in that video is really focused on the topic of that week. So part of it is this whole health concept. Then we go into the mind. Then we go into emotions. Then we go into the body. And then we go into intuition. I'm
Okay.
always weaving intuition in. They just don't necessarily know it.
Right. Right.
And then the second half of the sessions, we're really just continuing to cultivate that community, so it is a safe place for them to be seen, to be heard, to be held, to bring real life situations that are coming up, and to support one another and to practice the skills. So you asked what some of the things are that they'll be learning. Breathing techniques, very simple breathing techniques, simple movements that they can use to integrate into their day-to-day, so that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I teach the 3-part breath a lot, or a
Yeah.
lot of other breathing techniques, where they can practice that when
Mm-hmm.
they're in a challenging conversation, when they're stressed about a test, when they're, you know, so that is one way. Different ways to look at their thoughts, different ways to bring awareness into their body, how that's connected to emotions, how
Mm-hmm.
to communicate, how to
Mm-hmm.
listen, and what it means to avoid and numb. I mean, the comparison, TikTok, every 20, 30 reels, it's just, it is, it's the volume on their nervous systems
Yes.
turned up.
Yeah.
And for the parents. So I'm also offering 3 sessions for the parents, so that they can be aligned with the same language and the same tools, so that together, you know, they can again create like a deeper relationship and a deeper awareness and understanding of one another, of what it's really like to be a teenager right now. I mean, I think about it. My son, how many lockdowns has he been in? He's a senior in high school.
Yeah.
How many lockdowns? How many are not knowing what is happening? It's
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Nervous systems,
yeah.
I mean, of everyone, but just of children. So let's just be clear for everyone watching this. You know, a child is not really fully developed until sometime in their 20s, and the brain is fully developed. So the kids coming in these days, they're building a neural pathway system around this pandemic, right?
Yes.
And what I know about trauma is that when there is support, when there is connection, when there is community, when there are tools to meet the stressors in our lives, to help us navigate the traumas. Granted, they're coming rapid fire these days, but the way to navigate it and keep what I like to call the window of tolerance open, so we don't get dysregulated, is to connect, is to
Yes.
not be in isolation. We're hardwired for connection. And then the next greatest thing is to be in community with other people. So I feel like your program can create this opportunity for community because it's going to be online, right?
It's going to be online.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, because it is, I've always noticed in my time working with kids and in adults, it's when you bring the topic, you know, a lot of people, the first question right now, I know, it's how am I going to get my kid there? Like, a lot of kids, some are like, yes, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I need. And I, you know, and some, there's a lot of resistance, and I totally get that. But what I do know is once we're together and one person sort of says, yeah, that's hard for me, or when they express something, it's just this window that opens, this, you know, or this opening, this light that's like, oh my gosh, like me too, like I feel the same way. And it's so magical. And then they don't feel as alone, and they often feel more supported because a peer, or they're heard, or they're held in a different way, because every one of them is experiencing this in a different way.
Right. Well, I feel like, you know, one of the things that, so Beth and I connected because she was helping with the grief yoga teacher training that I got certified in. And one of the things that you learn in a grief yoga teacher training is, or just in grief yoga in general, is that when we heal in community, and when we are witnessed, so oftentimes the trauma lives in our body. And if you're a child and you grow up and no one's really acknowledging, oh yeah, you're not completely crazy. Oh yeah, that did actually happen. Oh yeah, none of us really know what to do right now. And we're all scared and no one has exhaled. So that's kind of what's going on. And for me, I was a really smart kid, and I just couldn't figure out, why isn't anyone talking to me about this? I'm confused, right? And so I feel like when we are witnessed, like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I went through, and I don't know what to do, to be connected to other people and have other people just be looking at you and saying, without any words, yeah.
So Carla, and I just have to say, and I'm going to tell a brief story because I see that Missy, I don't know if she's still on here, but one of my teachers and dearest friends, I see that she's joined. I don't know if she's still listening, but I want to tell this story, and it's about her, and it was one of the most life-changing, and it's about being witnessed in my yoga teacher training. And it was, as I was talking about before, that it was very hard for me to be still and to be in my pain and in my body. And I remember being on my mat and just crying. Everybody was practicing around me, moving, and I was just laying there crying. Right. And I knew she was behind me. And she was behind me, and she didn't say a word, and she didn't touch me. She didn't tell me anything. All I can tell you was presence. And it was one of the most life-changing moments for me. And I felt like if I can give that presence to somebody else, where I felt like I wasn't broken, I didn't need to be fixed, somebody was just holding me with love and compassion. Well, Missy, I hope she's on here still. Yeah. But that was, for me, one of those, I felt like if I can give that to somebody else for one breath, because that is it. There's nothing broken. No one needs to be fixed, but to hold somebody and see them, and it was just magic. And so that is a big piece of the community, to create that in this community of just, I see you. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. You know, it's, and to give them that space is it's very humbling. And that's how I feel when I'm guiding anything, whether it's one-on-one or in a class, or that it feels very sacred. And so I just want to give this back, is really what I want to do. I just want to give it back. And so that's why I'm so excited about it. Yeah.
I feel like these times that we're in require a new blueprint, require a new way of interacting with ourselves and with each other and with our kids and the world. And so we're sort of navigating, like, you know, with our eyes closed in the dark type of a thing. but part of what that's about is the wisdom in our body that knows
Mhm.
what we need. And that's why I go back to being hardwired for connection and just to be present. Like, you keep saying this, and I know it to be true for myself. And I've said it to myself as a mantra over and over, which is there's nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be fixed, right? There is a system that's broken, and we are humans trying to fit into a messy system, and everything kind of falling apart and transforming. And so there's nothing wrong with any of us. We're just remembering how to be ourselves, be true to ourselves, and find out what each one of us needs. And teens, more than ever, I
Mhm.
feel like there's so much wisdom and so much brilliance and so much creativity that's still alive in them.
Yes.
And then us sweet, well-meaning adults that are overwhelmed and possibly have our belief systems and thoughts and patterns and everything. And we come along and we just want to love, and it comes out in a distorted way. And next thing you know, we're like screaming and we didn't even mean to. And, and to be able to teach teens mental and emotional hygiene skills, ways of practicing emotional intelligence so that they can access their bodies and their breaths, so they can be present in the moment and say, I think, maybe we just need a break right now. Maybe, whatever's needed to stop, like, the nervous system's fight or flight response and just reaction, and to bring it back to the present moment, back to the breath and body. And I mean, that to me creates the connection. Like, it's so
Yeah.
important. It's so
Yeah.
important. And I guess,
It is.
could you give like one or two of the tools, or like maybe an experience that you've had with one of the kids that you've worked with that was really helpful, that helped them navigate something really hard?
I think it can be as simple as a breathing technique. Honestly, there's kids that I work with one-on-one, and teaching them some of the breathing techniques, and then learning and then teaching them how to connect it to where it's living in their certain pain or emotions are living in their body has changed everything for how they can go into a situation, rather than that constriction or tightness or holding the breath. So teaching a breathing technique is really simple. And even, this seems so silly, but I went to a school, the high school where I went to, and I went there last week. And one of the things that we were talking about is if they're in class and they're feeling distracted or tired, literally I taught them the 7 moons of the spine, right? So
Right.
I taught them, you can just go, like, pretend you're looking behind you. If your teacher is telling you that you're moving around, like, pretend you're looking behind you. Or you can go into, that figure 4 where, you can't see me, but your one foot is on your thigh and you're kind of leaning forward, because folding forward calms down the nervous system. And then you're even opening up your hips, where we store a lot of trauma and pain in our hips. It's where our place of safety even. So simple like that. It's not simple, but it's a simple tool. Say, if you're in class and you're distracted, or you're tired, or you can put one foot on the ground and you can't see me, but I'm kind of like folding forward a little bit, like
Right.
that kind of TV watching.
Right. And
And
typically you're using the
that's,
body. You're using the body, you're
yes.
using the breath. So it's like, part of why I'm excited about this is because I didn't have it as a kid, because it wasn't supported, because I really needed it, and I didn't know I needed it. The adults around me didn't know I needed it. And we are more well informed now. We are adults with a lot of tools, and our kids are suffering. There's increased suicide and drug use and everything that's going on. And part of that is to escape that pain and suffering, right?
It's easier to escape it. And so what I have noticed is that working with the teenagers, as we've been saying throughout our conversation, it's like, I can't, the amount of like drinking and drugs that I did to numb out for years.
Right.
And if I had maybe learned, like, just seriously slow the fuck down for a second. Slow down and notice what's going on in your body. It's not stomach pain because I have stomach pain. It's stomach pain that is emotion stored in there that is manifesting as a stomach ache. But
Right.
if I had known okay, just slow down, notice your breath, notice your body, and
Right.
go into a test that way. Or I just think, again, these simple things that as we get older, and this is why I say I love working with kids and with teens, is because they don't have 40, 50 years of that all stored. They have 15 years stored. So it is creating those patterns earlier on where they can learn and teach them. They know how to, so that then we can remind them how to slow down their nervous system.
Right.
My
Right.
dog is barking. Sorry.
And give them permission. That's another
Yes,
thing, because
100%.
teens are looking for guidance. They're looking for support. They're looking for connection. And at the same time, they're finding their personality. They're developing their will. They're finding their way. So it's this strange juxtaposition between, like, I want to be able to do it on my own, but I still really need you. But I want to figure it out, but I can't figure this out. And just like, I just feel like any kinds of tools, just if you're watching this after it's live, please understand that our teens need our help. So if it's your own child, if it's neighborhood kids, if it's someone, you work in a school and you're seeing a child suffering that's a teen that could use some extra support, there are tools out there. Whether you reach out to myself or Beth, or you just, something keeps snapping up on your screen and you follow it. Let's empower our kids and our teens to become loving, grounded, present, compassionate leaders with tools that they learn how to feel safe in their bodies, so they can access the wisdom that's needed to move us forward in a constructive, balanced way for us to evolve and not keep going down.
And so it is. And so it is. And if you're curious, you can check out. So this program that I have, it's starting in a few weeks. And please reach out to me if you have any questions. It's called Life School 101 for Teens. Check it out. I don't need to go into the details anymore today. But just so happy to share with you, Carla, and your passion comes through. And thank you for inviting me to come chat with you today.
Absolutely. I'm all about joy and laughter. And for those of you
go check out her classes, by the way.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't ever done anything that I've offered, you'll know that I'm always talking about laughter is like forced breathing, right? And without breath, we die. And most of us are shallow breathing, and anxiety is no breath, right? And it's a stuck diaphragm. And so, you start breathing, you start moving, and there's joy there, there's laughter there, and there are also tears there. There are emotions. And so when we have the tools we need, then we feel connected and we feel safe, and there's something where we can relax and let go, because we know that we're not like swimming around in this with like not knowing what to do and being at the effect of, right? Because we're reacting instead of feeling grounded and being able to respond to what's going on, because we are resourced inside. So that's why I'm so excited. Thank you, Beth. I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Yes, thank you.
Please check it out. If you have any questions for Beth, you can always message me or message her. I think you're on here as Beth Segaloff. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the program is in my bio.
Okay, great. Check it out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Mwah.
Have a great day. Take care.